Flosstube, welcome back. This is Snickerdoodle Stitch, a channel about cross stitch. My name is Kathleen and I'm happy to have you here with me today. So today I was going to go through my WIPs. I did say, I think on my last Flosstube that have historically been a monogamous stitcher, although having watched Flosstubers over the last year, thanks to my friend Donna, I will link to her YouTube below. I have delved into the world of multiple projects. So I definitely don't have as many WIPs as a lot of the Flosstubers that I watch, but I have more than what I've historically had. So I thought I'd share those with you today. I do keep all of my projects in project bags, mostly that I make myself, thanks to a tutorial from my good friend Andrea from Miss Andrea Quilts. And you can find her on Instagram. She does beautiful quilts as well as cross stitch. So these are just a few of the bags. I tend to use the same design. I like the clear front so I can see what's inside. I can buy the clear plastic at a local store. They sell it for tablecloth, for table covers. So I buy it by the yard there. So pretty simple bag. I stopped quilting on the back. I mostly just use a fusible to fuse them to soft and stable, which is my preferred backing. It gives them some body and stiffness so that they're not all floppy. So my rule is when I run out of project bags that are empty, I'm not allowed to kit any more projects until I get something done. Same rule that I use for hangers in the house. If I bring a new piece of clothes in, something has to go out. I'm not allowed to buy more hangers. So anyway, let's start with the WIPs. One that I work on almost every day is a temperature chart. And I saw a lot of temperature charts on Flosstube. I love them, but I knew that I didn't want to invest the time for the temperature chart into outlining. EJ on Sunshine Stitchers is doing temperature butterflies, which I think is from Stitching Mommy, but I might be wrong on that. Love the pattern, but I don't want to do all that black outlining for the pieces of the butterfly. Also love the bookshelf patterns. Stitching in the Land of Good Enough was working on one that I absolutely loved. But again, I didn't want to, I just wanted to stitch the temperature. So I found this chart on Etsy. It's ZahraDesignStudio. And let me see if I can get it to focus. There it is. And it's just these little motifs. Each one is 5 by 5, and they're not solid, so they're less than 25 stitches. It's easy to do, to keep up with each day, because I knew this was a project that if I fell behind, it just would never get done. So I have kept reasonably up to date on it. I think I'm up through the 16th, so I'm a little behind right now. I was stitching each morning. It's definitely few enough stitches that you could stitch a little bit while you have your coffee and get the day before done. Just this week has been busy. So here it is so far. Yeah, up through April 16th. I'm happy with it. It has kind of a quilt look, which I like. And I was a little disappointed back in the beginning of January with this one crazy hot day. December we had colder than normal temperatures, and then that first week in January it was way higher than normal, and I was a little bummed because the beginning should have been really kind of some purpley blues and some grayish blues, and I've got that bright green in there. But I think once it's all done, I haven't gotten too much into the oranges and reds yet here for summer, although it's a little alarming that we've had some days this hot so far, and it's only April. It doesn't bode well for us for summer, but that's my temperature butterfly. The next one is one that I started because I wanted something springy, and this isn't traditionally springy, but this is a lavender and lace pattern. It's called Isabella's Garden, and I just thought she was sweet. I didn't like the brown background, and it's actually a fabric that's discontinued, so I had to pick something else, but that was fine with me. I think I mentioned before too that I don't like brown. If brown's in there, I'm likely to sub it out. So what I decided to stitch her on, I think this is a Bis from Fabrics by Stephanie. I had 2 large pieces that I bought at Galleria last year, and the 2 pieces looked very different, but this is the one that I picked, and I'm pretty sure that's what this is. And I've got a good bit done on her. There's some more dress. There's some more pink dress to put in over here. But I'm about a third to a halfway done on her. And she's been a fun stitch. I do like the lavender and lace and mirabilia pieces. This is a relatively small one. It is only 138 by 154. So not terribly large, but it does have a lot of you know, there's a lot of that dress. The little girl is solid, so it's a lot of stitching, but she is only 138 by 154. So that's been my spring stitch. I am a seasonal stitcher. I do stitch in a frame or a hoop. I don't track hours or stitches. If you're here looking for that, you're at the wrong channel. I have a full-time corporate job and I do enough project management there. This is my hobby. I'm not about to project manage my hobby. This next one, I actually have 2 that are in progress, and this is Sewing Bird and Buttons from Stitches by Ethel. It was a pattern which was, it's exclusive to Hodgepodge, which is a LNS in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. And it was designed for Hodgepodge for a retreat that they had. I didn't go to the retreat, but the pattern is available through Hodgepodge. And I have two of them in the works, and I'll explain why that's upside down. One of them's upside down. This is a preferred kind of hoop for me. I like the spring tension hoops. They give really nice, I like very taut surface to work on, and the spring tension hoops do give a really nice taut surface. And they're so easy to take on and off. Like Q-snap is kind of a hassle and would be big for something this small. I know Q-snaps comes in smaller sizes, but it just is more awkward to hold. I'm able to hold on to, I usually just hold on to this in one hand, stitch with the other. Anyway, these are so easy to get on and off that I am more likely to do the right thing and take it off at the end of the day. And yes, I do realize that these are still in here. I was just stitching on these last night, so. But I have one of these finished, and the reason I'm working on these is I'm going to 4 retreats this year. I don't know what I was thinking. Well, I do. I wasn't sure I would get into StitchCon. I signed up for Stitch North, so I'm driving to Toronto for the 2nd weekend of Stitch North, which is the first weekend in May 6th, 7th, something like that. So I'm going to Stitch North. Then 2 weeks after that, I'm flying to Fort Lauderdale to go to Stitching in the Wild, which is a retreat hosted by GaRon Stitchery. I do think that one may have a few seats still open if anybody's interested. It is Thursday through Sunday. It's a longer one. Stitch North is 2 days. And then I'm going with my friend Lana to StitchCon Weekend B. So we'll be there. And then in October, I'm going to Stitch New England, which is the one hosted by Stitching in the Land of Good Enough. So yeah, it's been a lot. I've been trying to come up with needle minders for swaps. I have the first 3 retreats finished for that, and table gifts. So I'm done with the first, actually table gifts, I'm done with all 4 retreats. But then I've also been trying to work on the smalls, and I thought this would be a cool small. It's the Stitches by Ethel pattern, since it's one that people are not likely to have stitched themselves or even really have access to the pattern, since it is exclusive. So I stitched it up, and it is on the petted point. I'll get to a small later, and I can show you what, or I can tell you what the fabric is. So I made a few changes. I did change the floss because it called for DMC. I used silk. I wanted to make it kind of special for the giveaway. And then the other thing I did, the spools of thread were charted as X's for the thread, and instead I did a long stitch and went around every every thread in the fabric, so that I could make it look like floss. And it's hard to tell on camera, but I guess you can tell it's really solid looking. So I made it into this little needle book. They did have this done up at Hodgepodge, so I got the general idea there. It's got little pockets in the front and back. So you can tuck your scissors or something in there. And then it's got the wool felt in the middle. So that is one retreat, and I won't say which retreat, which small is going to. I have a couple other I'll show later, because I'm not sure yet. So my next WIP is Annie Bayliss, 1887, or God Save the Queen, and it's from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. And I started this back at the Jubilee. Thought I might finish it by the funeral when the Queen passed. I did not get it done, so now I'm actually debating, should I take it to Stitch North and see if I can finish it at the coronation for King Charles. But here it is. It's a little hard to tell. I'm stitching with Gloriana, and the variegation is not really coming out. This has, it's called Poinsettia, and it has a dark red, a really deep dark red, a berry red. It's not very orange, but this is the stitching. The only thing that would make me pause to take it to Stitch North is that the everything below this top alphabet is all 1/1. So it is definitely designed for stitching on linen. You could do it on Aida. It'd be a little tricky. You would have to actually do the top part 2/2 on the Aida, and then the bottom part a regular square stitch like you would be used to make it work. But it's definitely designed for linen. It has a lot. Pretty much the bottom of the chart is 1/1. And then I do want to make a change. This I really just don't like this bottom square that's just filled in with, I don't know, some kind of wiggly back stitch. To me, and there's a couple spots above that are similar to that. It looks like this was a very young stitcher and probably just needed something to fill in the space, and that's what they did. So that's cute. But Hands Across the Sea does have charted out something different that you can put in the bottom to commemorate Queen Elizabeth. So my plan is to do that. What I would like for this piece is I really would love to do a wall like Susan Aki, and I brought it up on, actually I took a picture so that I could get to it faster. It's Yard Girl 60, and that's Yard Girl without an I, so it's Yard GRL 60. But it's Susan Aki. She does work for Aurifil. You can find some gorgeous free cross-stitch patterns from her on the Aurifil website. But she has this wall, and I'm sorry if it's not focusing very well. Maybe that's okay. You can get the idea anyway. She has this wall that is all just red work and framed in white, and I just love the way that looked. It goes with my home decor, so I would love to do a wall like that, and this piece is very small, so it would be one little part of it. I have another project which I put in here with the WIPs. Honestly, it's not enough stitching for me to call it a WIP, but it would be part of that wall if I resume this. So It's this Quaker Circle Lydia pattern from Stickideen von der Wiehenburg. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I showed the big dragonfly Quaker by her in my last Flosstube. She has a lot of Quakers. She has other patterns too, but a local LNS used to carry a lot of her patterns. And so I have a couple of them. And I have this gorgeous berry colored Lugana. Years ago, AC Moore, which was a store we had locally, a craft store chain similar to Michael's Hobby Lobby, they had these huge packs from Leisure Arts. It was full yards of fabric, and I do remember they were $3. And I took a bunch of it to Goodwill, and I'm kicking myself now. But I kept this because I love this berry color. It's coming across on camera much more orange than it is. It's a very deep dark blue red. I'll call it berry. Some people would call this a start. For me, this is an experiment. This is 25 count Lugana, and I was stitching 2/2. I don't like the coverage. I don't like the way it's looking. I think I may try it again with some Splendor silk, or maybe try 3/3. I don't want to do 1/1 on it, even though I like doing 1/1 on 25 count Lugana, because it would only make it like 10 by 10, and I really wanted this to be larger. So what I was thinking was that I would have the white stitching on the red, and that would be the center of my wall with the white red work around it. Although I started this before I even had that dream. But what I may try it with, I do have a full hank of weight from Silks For You. But Stitches Unlimited, which is a cross stitch store not too far from me, it's near Lidditz, Pennsylvania. They recommended this to me, the Splendor Floss, if I can get it held up right. It is not a true white. It does have a bit of a cream cast to it, but when you stitch it, you really can't tell. I've substituted it out for weight, so unless you want like a B5200, this does work, and it provides beautiful coverage. If it's something you would normally do with 2 strands of DMC, you would use 2 strands of this, but it is a 12-strand silk, so it's around $4 a card, and it's about the same number of yards as DMC, so it's about the equivalent of 2 DMCs, but skeins a little bit less, but the coverage is just gorgeous. And I'll show something later that I did with this, and it's what I used on the snowman on the Bent Creek, the long snowman I mentioned using Splendor, but I didn't have it out that day. This next one is not a WIP, but I'm hoping for it to be a WIP very soon. So this is a Madame Chantilly pattern. Let's see if I can get rid of the glare. Notte Stelle? I don't know how to pronounce that. It has an Oscar Wilde quote on it. It's important to have dreams. But I just love that little girl with the butterfly net catching stars and the red poppies, and it just looked like a nice Summery stitch, and I may take it to Stitch North to work on. I don't have it fully kitted. I did buy the threads. Normally my floss I keep in floss away bags. I have pretty much the full floss away, and it's all in floss away bags because some of it has been in floss away bags for 30 years. The AC Moore that I mentioned, they used to have sales, and DMC floss was $20 for $1. And that wasn't that many years ago. I'm not talking 30, 45 years ago. And so I managed to get the full collection that was out at the time. It wasn't the new, you know, like 1 to 30 or whatever. I don't understand their numbering. But anyway, summer stitch, so I may take it to Stitch North. I need to pick out the fabric, and that may drive whether I take it there or not. 36 or higher, I definitely need magnification. If I do 1/1 on 25, I don't. And 32, it depends on how tight the weave is. 28 and lower, I'm fine without any kind of magnification. Or great lighting. So those are the two keys for me. Great lighting is number one, but I don't know in these indoor settings really how the lighting's gonna go. I do have a halo travel lamp, but it's definitely not the same as my home lighting. This next one is one of my oldest WIPs, and it is Donna Graber, the Apple Quilt. I'm not in love with it now. I don't really like the skinny little cats. They're kind of creepy looking, and I'm a cat person. And I'm also not crazy about birds. Sorry for you bird lovers. You know, I like to watch them in the bird feeder sometimes, but they kind of creep me out. So, especially crows, which is what this looks like. So I don't know. I do have this one in a project bag. I don't know if it's ever going to get picked up again. Unfortunately, I have a lot done on it, and it's a lot of the boring work. So I've got a lot of the quilt done. There's still a lot of weight that has to go in here, though. And these holes you see are for the apples. I suspect the reason I stopped working on this, and you can see when I came across this one, it has been in a hoop, and I don't know that I even want to confess how many years that's been in that hoop. It has probably been in the hoop for at least 15 years. So I'm not even sure the hoop marks will come off it. And I suspect the reason I quit working on it is this was a travel project, but I finished all of the grays that are in the quilt, and got to the point where it was a lot of weight, and stitching weight is not the best option for travel stitching, because my hands aren't always as clean as they are at home and whatnot. So anyway, I'm not sure that one will get picked up again, but I'm not gonna throw it away. This one I really struggle with, because I have a ton of work done in it, but the work that's left to do is not fun. It is a Teresa Wentzler. It's called Tapestry Cat, and at the time I started this, I had a Himalayan cat who looked very much like this. It was a kit, so I am sure it's not available anymore. It was from Leisure Arts. It's on a 28 count even weave, 2/2, and I have a ton of it done. The cat's eyes are not done, so it's looking a little evil. And all of that kind of geometric Celtic looking border and inner border, that's all done. What's left to do are the cat's eyes, a little bit of white on the cat, on its chest, and then back on the highlighted part of its fur. There's actually some white that goes in there. I almost always leave white to last unless it's going next to red or something that might pull through on it. But I did this when this was a travel kit for a while. That's how long ago it was. But what's left to do are all of those flowers that are in between the inner border and the outer border. And those flowers are a beast. So if you look at like this mum right here, it is a ton. All of those leaves, the mums especially, it is all 1/4 and 1/2 stitches and a metric ton of back stitching, and it's just not fun. And I'm not sure, I mean, I'm sure with magnification here at home, I could do those. I just don't know if I'm ever going to have the interest in doing that now. They're not even really colors that are going to work in my house. And I do, you will notice that I do tend to stitch with a thought in mind of where I'm going to use it or who I'm going to gift it to, what it's for. Every now and then there's something that I'm just stitching because I want to, it looks fun. But, you know, this is a lot of work to sit in a drawer, although I guess that's what it's doing now. I've debated, could I just frame it or mat and frame it like into the inner border without doing that part that's left. I don't know. Maybe I'll just bite the bullet and stitch it as charted and set some goal of doing a thread a day and spending the rest of my life on that thing. This next one is Quaker Pumpkins from Hello from Liz Matthews, and it is stitched on 32 count fiber on a whim butternut squash. And I have tried different lighting. I cannot get this to come through on the camera correctly. Let me see if I come way back. No, now you're just seeing me in my shorts that I put on. Yeah, it is a much more kind of orangey, it's not this fluorescent yellow. It's kind of alarming looking, the color that's appearing. That's not the color that it is. I made some changes in this. I made a few changes in the colors. It is all done in overdyes. And the pattern has this All Hallows Eve at the bottom, and I'm leaving that off. I wanted this for a fall seasonal, more into Thanksgiving stitch. So I'm removing the All Hallows Eve, and to do that, this second row of the kind of the line that's going across there, I didn't stitch that. I moved this more decorative line up. I don't think I'm going to stitch it on the top, although I'm not 100% sure. And I'm probably going to leave this crow out. So what I have left to do, now that I've described the plan, is I've got to get these little Quaker motifs in up above the pumpkins. The pumpkins at the bottom are all done. But super fun stitch. I had it in a scroll frame this fall working on it. I took it out of the scroll frame just to store it away. I'll pick it up in the fall again. Maybe in like September, so that I could actually finish it and have it out this fall. That would be nice. This next one, for a while, was the bane of my existence. I've seen this stitched at 2 stitch stores, and I'm trying to remember what they were. I know the Stitching Post in Baltimore had it stitched up, but I've seen it stitched somewhere else. It's called All Bundled Up. It's from With Thy Needle and Thread. It's this cute little snowman with the cardinal on his head. I'm doing him for a gift. And I did, you can see in the pattern that the snowman isn't, or in the picture, the snowman isn't really popping that much. And when I saw him stitched up, one I saw he was on a darker fabric. The other one I saw it was on a creamy fabric like that, and he also wasn't popping very much. So I had this darker fabric in my stash. It is 32 count needle and flax Steinbeck. So that's what I have started stitching him on. Ooh, that's pretty modeling. I am using a different weight for him. It's icicle, I'm almost positive. Oh, it's grits. Yeah, grits from Weeks Dye Works is what I'm using for the snowman. I took him to Galleria, so I started him there, and realized that that white is, there's a lot of it, and it's really boring. I mean, these rows are like 150 stitches wide, and there's a lot of them. It's just a lot of really boring white. So I decided then that I was just going to do a thread a day to get the white done. So normally snowman I would be done with in February, March. I would set aside any winter stitching to pick up again next year. But this one I knew I would like to gift this at Christmas, and for me to do that, I knew I had to come up with a different plan. So I thought, okay, I'll do a thread a day of this white and just get this done so that I can get on to the more fun stitching of the, you know, the leaves and the cardinal. And I do know where else I saw this stitched. It was Salty Yarns, and she actually did some fancy needlepoint stitches on the cardinal instead of cross stitches. It was really cute the way she had done it up. But anyway, that was my plan. And then one night I was like, oh, okay, I got that one thread done. I'll just go ahead and do a second. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll just spend a couple nights on it. And I managed to get all of the weight done. So the boring weight is finished. So I'm excited about that. A little less excited. So I actually bought this before the all bundled up. This is Spring Fling. It's the same from With Thy Needle and Thread. She has another Halloween one that's a cat peeking up over. But I had seen this one stitched up at Stitches Unlimited and loved it. I have the floss. I've already kitted up the fabric, but you see what it is, right? It's gonna be a ton of that weight stitching again. So maybe next year. It was not getting done this year while I was also fighting through getting this snowman done. This one I worked on over the Christmas holidays. I started it and almost finished it, but I set it aside. I made the goal that Christmas Eve was the last night I was working on Christmas stitching, and I had done this and the 5 Christmas ornaments that I showed last Flosstube. But this is Home for Christmas from Little Dove Designs. Let me get closer. If you go to Little Dove Designs website and look at this pattern, in the photos that they have for the pattern, they have this done in a couple different colorways, and it's not the floss that changes, it's just the background. So they have it done in a gray and Strawberry Sampler, yet another little LNS that I have, had this done on the gray, and I loved it. So this is my stitch. I'm almost finished. The border's all done except for 2 of the little red berry things at the bottom. And then I've got a few inches down here to finish. And then up here, the mailbox gets backstitched the words home. And then in here it says for Christmas. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to put the Home for Christmas on there, because even though there's some Christmas motifs like the tree lights or the lights, and there's some peppermint sticks, to me it's just kind of wintry. I guess that is a Christmas tree on the roof of the car, but I may use this more wintry. I think that's a better image of the gray. Because it's not, if I tilt it this way, it's coming out purpley, and it's not. Anyway, this is almost done. It is on 32 count Zweigart Stormy Night. Yeah, Stormy Night Vintage. But I will tell you, I'm stitching on the back. So this is the back of my work. If you look at the front of my work, there is no Stormy Night modeling. What happened was I was trying to find a gray that was dark enough that all this B5200 white was going to pop, but there is this, I don't know, 926 maybe, the house, that gray, and it's just a shade darker in the border. So I needed something dark enough that the white would pop, but light enough that I wouldn't lose all of the gray stitching. And when I dug through my stash, the Stormy Night looked perfect. But then as I started stitching and really looking at it, it was too busy. It was too much going on. There's a lot happening in this little piece. So I realized that the color that I really needed was the back. So I'm stitching on the back of it. So when you're digging in your fabrics, don't forget, even on the overdyes, a lot of times, I mean, this is a printed fabric, but even on overdyes, one side can look different than the other depending on the process that the dyer uses. So if you're struggling to find the right fabric, check out the back. This was a travel project. It's another one of the mice. I showed one that I finished yesterday. This is Cindy Keene. It's the Mill Hill kits, and it is almost finished. I had this one at Galleria with me as well. I took this and the all bundled up. So let me see if I can find something background. Sorry, that's kind of showing through. I've got all my boards in use. So he's nearly finished. Any of the holes that you see in here, those would be beads. I need to do his eyes. There's a really light color that has to go in the ears. And then I've got some blue up here, but he's probably like 80% done. He's a project that I take when I go to visit my dad because I don't have the best setup there for stitching. But I love the perforated projects for travel because, like I said, I have it in a small project pouch now, but normally, like if I were flying somewhere for a work trip, this is all I would take. This and a pair of these teeny tiny little scissors in here, and that's all I need. And I've got hours of entertainment. It's easy to do without any special lighting. I can do it in the hotel room just with whatever table lamp, floor lamp I can drag around to use. I don't need a hoop. It doesn't weigh anything to carry. I just love those for travel. This next one is with a needle and thread, April Wordplay, and this was stitched up at Salty Yarns, which is a stitch store in Ocean City, Maryland. It's about 2 hours from here. I'm really lucky because I have Hodgepodge Stitches Unlimited Strawberry Sampler within a 1 hour radius. And then if you extend to 2 hours, I've got Stitching Post in Baltimore, Salty Yarns in Ocean City, Needleworker's Delight, which is the one I couldn't remember last time, in northern New Jersey. There's one in Cape May, New Jersey. We're very fortunate and spoiled because we have a ton of LNSs in this area. I am doing this on 10 count. I lost my, hang on. I am doing this on a much heavier, coarser fabric than normal. It's on 10 count cream cork. And I'm doing it 2/2 because I want it to be really big, to be a pillow. This stitching, I don't need any special light, don't need any magnification. So that's the nice thing, one of the nice things. But also, if there's something little that you like, or even say you just wanted to do the bunny, but you didn't want to do the words, and you didn't want another little pillow. If you do it on the 10 count, it can make a nice big piece for you for either a pillow or like a standalone. And we learned this trick down at Salty Yarn in Ocean City. And my friend Lana just did a big one, Easter, from the Jelly Beans Brenda Gervais book. But so this is my start on this. I did put this away now for the year. None of the colors are the called for. I pulled from stash, and yeah. So that's that one. But you won't see that one for a while. Unless I have to get a project done, like I mentioned that snowman, I really want to be a gift this Christmas. So I can't wait until after Thanksgiving to start stitching, or I may not get it done. other than something where there is a definite deadline, I tend to be a seasonal stitcher. Oh, this WIP. This is one of my oldest WIPs. And this is just a big envelope that I made for this huge scroll frame. This is a lavender and lace. It's called Angel of Mercy. Here is the picture. This came out in 1995, and I'm pretty sure I started stitching it around 1995. There's quite a bit done, but not so much that I'm committed to this. So I have a stitch coming out. Oh no, loose thread. I don't know that I'm going to finish this or work on this again. There's also a little rust on it from a needle. This has been in this scroll frame 25 years. It's probably been that long since I picked this up. And it's on, I'm gonna guess Twilight Blue Swigart, because at the time, back in the mid-90s, that would, you know, you had limited color options. I really think it would pop more on a dark, like I would love it on a darker blue, over-dyed, similar to the Fabrics by Stephanie Abyss that I have the other lavender and lace going on. Okay, I can't find her that fast. The little girl blowing the bubbles I have on that dark blue, over-dyed. And I think this would pop more on a fabric like that. So I'm really torn. See, it's all, I mean, it reads as white. Both dresses do, right? One is a little more cream, one's a little more gray, but they read as white. I think they'd pop more on something than this. This was originally, I started this because my mother loved the Mirabilia, the big fairy moon that I showed last Flosstube. And so I wanted to do one for her. And I started on this, like I said, 25 years ago. And unfortunately, it got put by the wayside, and my mother has passed. So I don't know what's going to happen with this one. I did decide to show it in part because it's a good example of how I stitch. I am a single color stitcher, so you can see that I have gone through and I've stitched olive one white. I wouldn't count over from here to like way over here or something, but if I can map out a route, I will do all one color and then go on to the next color. I'm also a railroad stitcher. I don't do single X's. I think the stitching lays flatter and looks neater. If I can stitch one direction and then come back. And it was just how I was taught to stitch when I very first started stitching, and we tended to stick with what we're comfortable with. So that is a WIP. Next up, I have a few finishes. Oh, let's see if there's any more WIPs. I have a few finishes from 2023. This one I started on Christmas week. This is from Le Temps du Thé, and it doesn't have a name, it looks like. It's just called Reference 1816. I saw this stitched up at Galleria and fell in love with it. And I think it was Inspired Needle. Oh, Silver Needle. Silver Needle had it stitched up there. In the model, it's on kind of a late beige, I'll call it. It's not really a tan. It's not really a gray. Mine is on 32 count Graceful Gray. It's in the Claude 4 DMC. And I loved how, you know, with some very simple strokes, there's a lot of long stitch on here. The pine needles, the wreath, even the little girl's dress is all long stitch. I loved how with a very few strokes, it looks so detailed and delicate, and it was just sweet. So that's my Noel. I finished it between Christmas and New Year's, so that's why it's not fully finished yet. Some of this stuff I'll keep and fully finished when I get closer to whenever I plan to use it, because it's easier to store this way than fully finished. This next one was a New Year's Day start for me, and it is Cottage Garden Samplings The Needleworker. It was out new then. I couldn't get hold of the Fabrics by Stephanie. I think I waited too long to try and get it. And so it was gone everywhere. And this is on Fiber on a Whim Buttermilk. Yeah, 32 count. I picked the count because of the size that I wanted him to finish. And he is all in the called for DMC, except for the white. And I again used the Splendor that I mentioned. And I don't think I am going to stitch on the sewing machine and pincushion and scissors and those things. I may or may not stitch the needle that he's holding with the thread in it. That's part of why this one isn't fully finished, is because I wanted to I want to think about whether I want to stitch any of those other pieces on there. Yeah, I can't decide. I like the little sewing machine and scissors. I may put them just separately on a small or something, and not on here. But he's so stinking cute. I love these little bunnies. These little bunnies in his pocket, and at the bottom here, like kind of tucked up in the furry edge of his coat. Yeah, he's a lot of stitching though. I mean, that's solid. And it's 100 by 130 overall. So he's not, but I mean, look at that pattern. It's almost completely covered. So he's a lot of stitching. I got a little bored stitching him, so I took a break from him and worked on Blackbird Design, Frosty's Night Out, which is this pattern. The called for fabric is Murky by Picture This Plus. Murky, well, anything Picture This Plus, right, is impossible to find. We all know that. I am hearing that stores with orders from January of 2022, so 14 months ago, their orders are now shipping. So one of my LNSs told me that they were expecting any time to get their January of last year order. And then GaRon Stitchery mentioned it on their last Flosstube. But so I didn't use Murky, partly because of availability. I did find a couple pieces of Murky. I even have a piece of Murky, but mine is very brown looking, and the ones that I was finding, they were. So this is just on 28 count blue sapphire. It worked too because I know how I want to finish this, and the 28 count makes it the right size for my finishing that I have planned. But he was a fun, very fast stitch. Very, very fast. And it is with all the called for threads. I didn't substitute anything on him. He's as called for. And this linen, it was just a scrap piece that I bought at Stitches Unlimited. They have like a little basket with scrap pieces, and it was the perfect size, so it was kind of, yeah, that worked using it for him. This is a finish that I did at Easter, but it's not fully finished. It is Shepherd's Bush Scattered Eggs. The called for fabric for it is Cork Rue Green. Mine is on the Cork Cream. And here it is finished up. I did do a little bit of substitution since it's on cream. The original pattern, this border up here is in a cream color, those X's there, and they weren't going to show up on cream fabric, so I substituted it out for a little purple. And then it has some buttons on it. They aren't the buttons that are in the pattern, but That's a little chick. We got a little bunny over here and some Easter eggs. But my plan for this is to frame this up with this fabric, and then I have some cute Easter fabric for the back. And this again, this is more orange sunshiny yellow than the fluorescent yellow that's happening. I don't know what is up with yellows. I have to research that. Up next is a fully finish, and I went to Strawberry Samplers. They have a sale every year for Super Bowl, and just inside the door on their table of new patterns, I had this one and I fell in love. It's Happy Easter and Peep Peep from Shannon Christine Designs. And I love her designs, and I don't know that the cover art always doesn't do justice. It's usually just the computer generated image from the design, but her patterns are easy to read and they stitch up every bit as cute or cuter than the computer generated design. So I actually fully finished these and had them in a milk glass bowl for Easter. These are done exactly as charted. It's that same stupid thread. These are done exactly as charted. Peep Peep and Happy Easter. I've got some springy colored fabric on the back. They're filled with walnut shells. And not stitched up very well on the bottom. Not sure what I did there. Yeah. And then I have one more Easter finish. This is Welcome Easter, and you can get this from Jardin Privé. It's in the section that I think might just be named Camille, but okay, I'm not going to keep showing the picture. This is on Picture This Plus Pampas, 28 count. I used 28 count because I knew what the standard size square frame was that I was going to be able to buy, and 28 count made it the right size. And I also had this green in my stash, which looked almost exactly like the green that's in the model, although it's an Ada and not Picture This Plus. But I love the little bunnies on here. They were so cute. I did make a little bit of modifications. There's some more brown eggs down here. I think there's maybe supposed to be chocolate eggs in there, but they look like something else at the bottom, and so I opted not to stitch those. And then there is a really faint little white, just like single line at each corner that is supposed to be stitched. I did not stitch those. I didn't think they necessarily added anything, and it was going to be very strong lines in the corners to fight with as I tried to square this up for framing. So I left that out. If you have a more organic shape, framing is much more forgiving. So that was my Easter. That was all of my Easter stitches. Let me see what I lost back here. So I have a few smalls. The last thing I'll share is my prep for the retreats. For one of the retreats, I'm doing My Pink Rose by Blackbird Designs. This is an out of print pattern, which I bought in an LNS. I'm not sure which one. Not even knowing the whole Blackbird out of print thing. But I have it stitched up exactly as called for, including the fabric, which is Belfast Patty Point, and it's natural with white dots. And I had the little needle book for a retreat swap. I did use Vonna Pfeiffer's tutorial for the general idea for the flat fold finish. I made a few changes in her process. I have done bookmaking before, and so I use a couple techniques from that, and I use bookmaking glue. I'm not a big fan of Aleene's, and I have other glue that I knew was gonna dry faster and would still be clear and would be archival. So for the fabric I used, it is a Blackbird Design fabric. It's a newer line, but that rose in there is a perfect motif to go with this. So I was very excited with that. So hopefully somebody likes that as a swap exchange. Not sure which retreat is going to get that again because I haven't figured that out. The third retreat swap exchange that I have done is from Erica Michaels, the Sewing Bee. And this is on 32 count antique linen, but I tea-dyed it. And that's the Sewing Bee. It has the chart keying with the little scissor charm and then the little red heart, and there's a yellow button up at the top. This twill tape, like the tape measure, that's from my stash from doing altered art, so I have no idea where that's from, but I have yards of it. And then I put a felt wool back on, and it is filled with walnut shells. I thought I knew which retreat I was taking this one to, but they've asked us to not bring in anything with walnut shells due to some attendees with allergies. So now I'm less certain where each of these is going to go. And I do have a second one started with not tea-dyed linen, and I was going to do a brighter colorway for myself, but I'm not liking this yellow. It's actually showing up better on camera. You can see it more than I can in person. So, but that's my other small. And then I finished. I thought I would just show you quickly my table gifts. For one retreat, I have little thread catchers. So I used one of these. Mine's a little bit different pattern. Well, it's the same pattern. It's just these get folded down and buttoned down. This is what I use next to me stitching at home for threads, but they can crumple up too, so they will travel. And then for another retreat for table gifts, I made little it could be a bag pull scissor fob. It's got the clamshell clasp on it, and it is made with Kath Holden fabric from Moda, which looks like it's a photograph of needlepoint. I don't know if you can see it or not. Maybe it'll focus. Yeah, if I take myself out. So that's for a different retreat. And then I've been frantically working on and carding up needle minders for multiple retreats. Each retreat's getting a different needle minder. But yeah, I have those finished, so I'm good to go for my first 3 retreats. I got to work on a needle minder or floss drops or something for the 4th retreat, and then that's all done. Unfortunately, it's been taking away from my stitching time because I've been assembling needle minders at night. But that's everything for today. I hope you're having fun stitching. Hopefully something here inspired you. And have a good week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.